Hey there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Red Pill Religion Podcast, where amongst the many things we say are that old guys know things, and we've been trying to tell you godlessness matters, because godlessness always gets you in the end. And at the moment, we are both actually rather pleased and praising God for his good fortune. But let me just say, before we begin, if you like the kind of content we do here, please support our work on redpillreligion.com, where you will find our tip jar for PayPal, our subscribe star link, merchandise you can buy. We appreciate to hear from you there. All the money you give us does help us keep doing this thing. Also, give us a like and a subscribe, smack the bell, and tell your friends and enemies about us. You can find us on multiple social media platforms. We're moving more and more towards MeWe and toward Dissenter. I'm going to give a strong recommendation to Dissenter. No, we're not getting paid for it, but I recommend it strongly because on Dissenter, you can comment freely on anything. It'll display any story and allow you to basically adds a comment section to every internet site, whether they want your comments or not. And a lot of people are unhappy with Dissenter, which is a reason to sign up for it. So do go find us on there. Also tonight, though, before we begin, please be sure to check out sci-fi-right.com, and that would be the blog of the man sitting here with me virtually. Say hi, John.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And John C. Wright is a fabulous and award-nominated and winning, well-known science fiction and fantasy author who's making a lot of noise right now and should stop that, should mute himself. But please make sure to click the Works link.
You still hear the noise?
It seems to have stopped now, sir.
Okay, sorry, I was moving my microphone.
You check on the Works link and buy all of his books. I have it on good authority that if you buy at least 3 of his books tonight, he will read a sonnet from Shakespeare for you. Just saying.
I will write a sonnet from Shakespeare for you.
Oh, even then. All right, then. So check out sci-fi-right.com, where you'll also find his books that you can buy, some free software. No, not free software. Did I say free software?
Samples. Free samples.
Free sample, and a lot of commentary. And there's a lot to comment on. You know, we were going to do our normal droll stuff tonight. We're talking about atheism, but I'm getting sick of atheists, arguing with atheists, especially because they keep losing. Because I got to tell you, there is a godless right, and the godless right disturbs me greatly. But the godless left has been in power for quite a bit some time, and yes, the godless part of them matters. And what I would say call the godless left, the evil left, and by the way, there is an evil right wing. There is. But the evil left has been a thorn in my side and the side of quite a few others for a while. And the evil left, the godless left, has just experienced 3 kicks, not 1, not 2, but 3 kicks in the gonads this past 24 hours or so. Isn't that remarkable? We got 3 stories. The one I'm happiest about, to be honest with you, no, I'll save it for the last. I will save the one I'm happiest about for last. The first one, which everybody probably already knows, is that the Mueller report has found nothing on President Donald Trump. Isn't that funny, John Wright?
Speaking as a lawyer, I have to say that the title that your news is displaying right now is fake news. The
Really?
question is not open. Because they are not indicting anyone, that means they found no evidence of obstruction. In fact, they cannot find any evidence of obstruction. It is not legally possible. Do you know why?
Why?
One of the elements for the crime of obstruction of justice is that the person is attempting the underlying crime. You have to have a crime that's being a real crime that really exists, that's really being investigated, that someone is trying to stop the investigation for obstruction to justice to apply. Merely saying, I've been falsely accused, I'm innocent, it's a witch hunt, when in fact there's no underlying crime, cannot possibly be obstruction of justice, no matter what. Even firing the officers in charge of the investigation, if the investigation is investigating nothing, cannot be obstruction of justice. It would be like having murder with no one murdered. It would be like having theft with no intent to steal. It's like saying a guy's guilty of breaking and entering when there's no house involved. It's one of the elements of the crime. Okay? It's impossible. And the only reason why the newspapers are still saying it is because they're in the tank.
They're in the tank. The news. I know. I mean, most media is controlled. That's one of the more important things to know. I am not a Trump Kool-Aid drinker per se. I follow Trump. There's things he does I like. There's things I don't trust. And I don't like, at the same time, it's been so obvious to me that most of the press hates him so much and wants him removed so bad, it's not even possible to have reasoned criticism of the president because it's just drowned out by screaming people, orange man, bad, everything. And the media has been telling us that there was some big Russian thing for more than a year, 2 years now.
2 years now.
And I was looking, there was never much of any evidence of it at all. They were really vaguely hoping, and this guy, Robert Mueller, who they spent the last couple of years saying he's going to get him, he's going to get him, he's going to get him, came up, there's nothing. And yeah, the obstruction of justice thing is very dicey. Real obstruction of justice would be that a crime was determined to have happened and you tried to stop it from being discovered. The only thing they would plausibly have on this insinuation is, well, they weren't cooperative enough when we asked certain questions, but that's not even a meaningful.
Except they were. Mueller has put out a public letter saying that the White House cooperated fully with every request. They didn't even drag their feet. They didn't even stonewall, which is legal, but it slows down the process.
Good Lord. So Mueller even said, okay, so then the story is an outright lie.
The story's an outright lie.
There's no evidence of obstruction either.
People find it hard to believe that a newspaper would outright lie to them, but these guys, they all knew it. Do not misunderstand. All these newspaper people, their editors, the people writing it, the people spreading it, the people repeating it on the evening news, they all knew that there was zero evidence for any obstruction. They were all in on it because they all knew there was no Russia collusion. Because what did they have? They had one meeting between Trump Jr. and a lawyer hired by the Clinton people to go talk to him. And what did they have to be able to wiretap the Trump Tower? They had a dossier produced as opposition research by the Trump Organization, which they pretended from another source, which is a crime. They swore out a false warrant 4 times, which is 4 more crimes. They leaked information to the news, which is a crime. They then reported to the Justice Department that since the newspapers were saying this, that was indicia of a crime, which was a lie, which is a crime. You understand how outrageous this scandal is? Watergate is nothing compared to this. Nothing. Because all Nixon was accused of doing was trying to cover up someone who tried to plant a bug on his political opponents. These guys actually did plant a bug on the political opponents, and they got the FBI and the DOJ to cooperate. Now, if you guys are still curious about what the words obstruction of justice means, if there's anyone in the audience who does not know what that crime consists of, that's when you get a subpoena for someone to be able to examine your email records, and you have your people smash cell phones to pieces with hammers, use BitLeach to erase the hard drives of your computers, and you wipe your server. That's what obstruction of justice is. And guess who did that?
Hillary.
Hillary.
Oh,
yeah.
Hillary,
You
yeah.
want to know what collusion with Russia is? Setting up a bogus charity.
Okay.
Having the Russians dump a bunch of money into your lap, and then you use your State Department connections to make it so they take about about 20% of the American uranium market is now in their hands. You sell them.
Now listen, you're bringing in another story and another case and making allegations and all that, and it has yet to be seen whether any of these
I was really using obstruction of justice as an example to show what it actually was, if it should ever happen.
Yes.
Correct.
And what has been shamelessly obvious is that, see, here's the reality. Even if you detest Trump, I've seen a lot of people who can see it now. Even people who really don't like Trump at all, they can see. I've even seen liberals who are like, "You're giving him the election by acting this way. Stop it. We have real issues." I've seen sane liberals talking like this.
And they're right. And those liberals are right.
They're right. They're handing everything to Trump this way.
Can you imagine how betrayed you would feel if you were enough of a sucker to have believed CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, and MSNBC for the last 2 years, when every hour of every day they said there is firm evidence that Trump is a traitor who colluded with the Russians, who conspired with the Russians to hack the election. And it's all false. There is no evidence that ever happened. It was made up out of whole cloth. Or excuse me, rather, it was made up because Clinton was accusing him of what she herself was doing at the same time.
That's what you think. That's what you think, and you might be right. You might not be. I suspect you are, but we're going to see. I want to try to avoid. Let's turning this into. Let's just talk about how. But did you know what? The media has been shamelessly in the tank to try to take out Trump. Everybody can see it. Everybody has, and here's how it's been accomplished. I'm going to repeat this before.
Did you hear that story? Even Ted Koppel at a get together with other newsmen said, "Is this advocacy journalism or is this journalism? Are you guys just writing editorials and pretending they're news stories? Or are you writing news stories?"
Ted Koppel, who was never all that conservative at all.
He's not conservative in his bit. He's not conservative.
No.
Alan Dershowitz,
another one. Yes,
right.
yes. Everybody can see it, and everyone
can see it. Everyone can see it.
Let me just make it clear why it's so obvious and why this is even possible. Because there's always been a sort of moderate left tilt to the press for generations,
yeah,
for a variety of reasons, which, by the way, also tended to offend a lot of people on the left because the mainstream acceptable left of the New York Times often repelled them as well, because the press has always been more controlled than we like to think it is. But the last decade or so, we have allowed 6 major corporations to take over all of our news organs. More than 90% of your local TV, local radio, local newspapers, and most magazines, over 90% that you buy over the rack, plus all major news sites, are owned by the same 6 corporations: Time Warner, Sony, Disney, and I can't remember the other 3 off the top of my head. And these 6 corporations are completely incestuous with each other and control the news all the way down to your local level. And they are completely incestuous with Google, Yahoo, the Reddit people, Facebook, Twitter. They're all completely incestuous. Everybody should be able to see this now, except the hardcore true believers of the swill they're getting fed. They hate Trump because Trump is a threat to the entire establishment they represent, and they'll do anything to take him out. And it's not working, because the other thing that's been happening is ratings have continued to plummet for all the major news sources. All of them. CNN is just crashing. Every week their ratings get worse. MSNBC, every week it gets worse. Last night or 2 nights ago, I saw it. Rachel Maddow, her lip was quivering, her chin was quivering, her lip was powdered out, and her voice was shaking, and she admitted that Robert Mueller had no indictments of anybody for anything.
Nothing.
Nothing, not even a parking ticket.
I'm reminded of the time Geraldo Rivera said he had found the secret cache and hideout of some famous gangster. Who was it?
Al Capone. Al Capone's vault. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, live show in Chicago. I remember it at the time.
And it was an empty room. There was nothing in there. But let me tell you the difference. I think Geraldo was on the level. I think these guys knew dang well that the room was empty, and they've known it for 2 years.
And they're actually, I'm not going to predict it for sure because I don't want to go this far, but I really do think we might now see some people associated with the Obama and Clinton campaigns, especially the Clinton campaigns, in trouble, and people high up. I'm not going to say how high up, because we'll see what's possible and what's reasonable.
I will say only that a fish rots from the head.
Yeah. And in terms of that, let's go to the other delightful story.
Since I'm a lawyer, may I introduce this story?
Mr. Avenatti, yes, tell us about Mr. Avenatti.
You all remember sleazy porn lawyer Michael Avenatti, the guy who hired what was her name? Now I've lost my.
Was it the porn actress who went after Trump?
Not just the porn actress who went after Trump. Julie Swetnick. The porn actress went after Trump. That was a little more complicated, and that was Stormy Daniels. But he also represented Julie Swetnick and sent her to go after Brett Kavanaugh. And instead of accusing him of groping a girl at a party back when he was, 9 or whatever, that she can't remember the time, date, place, or what planet she was on. In this case, the woman testified that he was in the habit of slipping Mickeys into the punch bowl, drugging women, and dragging them out to multiple rape gangs over and over again. And yet she still went to the school and went to his parties. And this is Mr.
Oh, right. The big heroine who went after Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice.
That was Avenatti also, in addition to the Stormy Daniels debacle. Oh, and they ended up suing each other, by the way, Stormy and her sleazy lawyer.
Okay, let me put it shortly then. So the sleazy porn actress, prostitute who got paid hush money and then tried to make a scandal out of it, that was Mr. Avenatti's doing. And now also the lady who had accused from 30 some odd years ago Brett Kavanaugh and he nearly raped her or sort of raped her. I can't even remember.
No. He raped multiple women in huge gang rape parties after spiking the punch bowl, and he would do it on a weekly basis, him and his gang in the law school. we all know first L, 1L law students all behave this way. We had to go. In fact, when I was in law school, I used to go out with my biker gang and just start killing babies and eating Jews and doing every other evil under the sun. They were busy worshiping Satan. It's true. It's absolutely true.
They were ridiculous. It had no credibility. He was part of the smearing of Brett Kavanaugh, and Brett Kavanaugh was smeared. I'm sorry.
If anything, the absurdity of her smear made the other smear seem even less credible. As hard as it is to believe for how incredible that first one was as well. So that was the guy who was behind all that, and he had just been indicted for 2 different crimes in 2 different states, one in California and one in New York. In California, he's been indicted for bank fraud and wire fraud, and in the Southern District of New York, keep that name in mind. The Southern District of New York has just indicted him for extortion, because he had threatened Nike and said that he wanted $1 billion or some ridiculous amount. I don't know what the amount is out of them, or else he was going to ruin their corporation. Extortion.
Charlie Reed says that Don Lemon was almost crying too. Well, I'll tell you all the reason. Don Lemon was crying. I'll tell you what. I think this also, because I think what they were probably also crying over was the fact that their careers are just about done now. They really are just about done. Rachel Maddow came in representing something that was always fake and inauthentic, as nice and homey of a friendly lesbian as she might be. Really, it was always just a total paid stooge. Spouting a party line. That's all she's ever been. That's all anybody at MSNBC has ever been. By the way, don't think I have a lot of good things to say about Fox News these days. I don't. There's a couple people over there I respect, but not much. Not that much. CNN, totally worthless.
I don't watch them. I gave up on Fox News when they turned on their own people.
Oh yeah.
And besides, Fox News isn't even conservative. They've always been middle of the road. They always try to be middle of the road.
In fact, I would say that Fox News ceased to be anything meaningful with the leaving of oh my God, who was that guy? He was the main guy at Fox News that everybody respected.
No Spin Zone guy?
No, the respectable one, Brit Hume. Brit Hume was the news director and came into that channel as a news director and wanted to make it a real news place. And it was very obvious when he left, something completely changed, and they become much more corporatized, platinum blonde, spouting a friendly to conservative line that was really more not that friendly to conservatives, not that much. They got a very old demographic now too. CNN though, completely in the tank, same way. No use for CNN. What good is anything at CNN now?
Yeah,
what are they going at CNN now?
What are they going to have as their news articles? Are they going to say that? Yeah. The other news story that it didn't happen within 24 hours, but it did happen this week, was President Trump signed an executive order saying that there was going to be no more research money going to any university which enforced a speech code or even failed to proactively defend the free speech of their students on campus. Then they had a number of students stand up and tell their in the news conference, tell their stories of times they had been suppressed and silenced outrageously by the campus authorities, even in violation of the campus of their own campus rules, if the people were conservative or Christian. Just shut them down. Just shut them up. But
Yep.
our friendly universities, there's one university he couldn't do that to, and that's Hillsdale. You know why? Hillsdale takes no money from the federal government.
Right.
All these other guys who just love the idea of taking money from the federal government, love the idea of basically giving control of their scientific research processes over to the feds. Well, now that one of their own is not in charge of the spigots of money, it's the boomerang of justice has clocked them in the back of the head. They're the ones who set themselves up for this. If they had integrity, if they had principles to begin with,
these are people. These are people with no ethics and no morals. That's what Michael Avenatti is. I'm sorry, no ethics, no morals. Obviously godless. Or maybe he'll get serious about God now that he's been arrested. That's a common thing, by the way.
Not arrested. Not arrested.
He was not arrested. Indicted. Sorry, indicted. You should say that. Well, Bloomberg is only saying arrested, but indicted is indicted. So I'll take your word for it, sir. And yeah, the fact that speech codes are going to be enforced on campus, it's a little bit of a change of subject, but it is worth mentioning it because, yeah, that we even have to do this is terrifying, but it's great that they're doing it. Students are still going to face hurdles and harassment and problems through school because their professors who wanted to gag them won't be able to anymore, but they'll still be able to treat them bad. But this is the end. This is going to be the end of the line for the Cultural Marxist Project on a lot of campuses.
It's the first time the left has been shoved back in any field in my lifetime. Is these last 2 years? And
it's been a huge pushback too.
I've never seen them lose ground. I've never seen them lose ground before. And even better in the same news story, the other thing that the Trump administration is doing is they're looking for a way to tie the federal funding of a university into whether or not their students can pay back the student loan. And the reason why they're doing this is to create an incentive for the universities not to offer loans to students who can't perform in the classroom or who are studying things that will be of no use in the real world. Because right now it's kind of a racket. The university takes zero risk, offers the students degrees in gender grievance studies or puppetry, and the student gets a ridiculous amount of debt, far, far higher than it was when I went to school, that they can't pay off for 10 years or 20 years.
I'll tell you a brief story, and then we'll go to the third story that has me praising God the most. But I'll tell you a little private story. I know a guy named Warren Farrell. Some people have heard of him, some people haven't. But he's really phenomenal human being, a really good man. An agnostic, but still, he has been writing on men's and boys issues for decades, and he used to call himself a feminist, not anymore. But you know, the situation on campus for males has been something in schools K through 12 is something he's been writing on. He's been writing on it for 30 some odd years now on how schools are serving boys poorly, especially. And they really, really, really are and have been. It's been getting worse and worse. And feminism is one of the main causes, not the only one, but one of the main ones. Yeah. Warren told me he's been fighting this fight and talking amongst his fellow. I mean, he used to be president or member of NOW of New York, and the president of NOW in New York, the National Organization of Women and stuff. He's totally changed since then. And he's been working and fighting this anti-male bias specifically for decades as it's gotten worse and worse. And he told me and some others privately that the president of a major university, I will not say which one, but it doesn't matter, told him, he says, Warren, I know you're right about all this. You're right about every word of this. And this was a major Ivy League university too, and a guy who was kind of liberal politically. He says, you're right about all of this. He said, well, what do we do about it? And he says, sue us. Please sue me. Sue me, please. Sue us. That is the only way you're going to get this fixed. And that is, I mean, and so you know that even with my point is, even with academia, you know there are people in those institutions who are waiting for things like this. The lawsuits, which are coming, by the way, the National Coalition for Men and others have been doing lawsuits, and now this executive action, at least ensuring free speech, is going to be devastating because men who want to push back and women who want to push back at feminists, Christians who want to push back at atheists, Christians and other religious people who want to push back at atheists, people who don't feel totally comfortable with the LGBT agenda are going to be allowed to say so. And they're still going to be able to do dirty things to people, but it's not going to be the same. They've been pushed back hard. And here is, but I want to remind people of that. Suing these universities for race discrimination against whites, sex discrimination against males. Conservatives are idiots if they don't, fight fire with fire. And so they should do that.
The judiciary is being filled with conservative originalist judges. Hand over fist.
Yep. And then there's the story that has me gleeful and knowing that the writing is on the wall for the ancien regime, the old guard. The Southern Poverty Law Center has exploded today.
Amen.
With the resignation of both its president and its legal director.
Praise Jesus. Amen.
Praise Jesus. We'll turn to the Catholic Baptists. Praise him. Praise him high.
Hold your hands high.
Thank you for having delivered us from our enemies. This is the one that has me giggling.
This is a deliverance. This is a deliverance. Keep reading. This is an absolute deliverance from diabolical forces.
Here is it as Office Zero has used by the, I'll just read the story. The Southern Poverty Law Center, the vicious left-wing attack dog used by the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Google, and his Amazon to identify hate groups is unraveling. By the way, let me mention people like the FBI were using them too to target people. And by the way, I was targeted by these people along with some others. But oh gosh, and this is just so. I might get too excited to read this. No, this is too awesome. A week after co-founder Morris Dees was ousted over sexual misconduct claims, so Morris Dees is already gone. Then with 24 employees signing a letter of concern over allegations of mistreatment, sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and racism, the head of the SPLC, Richard Cohen, as well as the organization's legal director, Rhonda Brownstein, had resigned on Friday. So it was actually Friday night. And it's just hitting the news cycle this morning. Of course, I think they were hoping to bury it on the Friday night news cycle.
Yep.
Oh, well, it is, I don't know. We need to hear more about this. They did bury it on a Friday. I'm sorry. This came out Friday or Saturday. All right, it came out Saturday. Still, they're trying to bury it, putting it out on a Saturday. But it's taken hold today. These people are so evil. I'm wondering, was Morris Dees the guy I even met from SPLC? I met one of these penny loafer mafiosos at the International Conference on Men's Issues in 2014, which I was the main organizer of on the ground anyway. No, I didn't meet this guy, but Morris Dees. Okay, so basically the core management team of the SPLC has all gone down in flames within 1 week, all within the last week. And these people are truly godless, evil people. And
they went down in flames over accusations of sexual misconduct, racism, discrimination, sexism, ism. It's all their stuff.
Yes.
It's all their own ridiculous, non-Christian, unrealistic standards of diversity and inclusion and whatever else their meaningless buzzwords are. These creatures are just a mob. They're just going to eat their own heads. This is delightful. If the Bible quote for today, I believe, is that may the wicked fall into their own traps while I go by unharmed.
I forgot to get that up on the screen. I lost that.
That's why I'm reading it. That's why I'm reading it now, brother. These guys. Who was that? That overweight, sleazy, disgusting producer from Hollywood. Weisenberg?
Yeah.
Weinstein, yeah. Who was a Brexit and was a Hillary supporter. When the accusations came out on him, on tape, they have the newspaper guys who are supposed to be reporting the news wishing him the best and hoping that he can get his problem under control and really, rooting for him. The news guys, the reporters, that's not the way they treated Brett Kavanaugh, who was as innocent as the day is long. Oh,
well, we all know that double standard. Their own guys are innocent until proven guilty.
Now the double standard has redoubled back on them, hasn't it? I'm from Virginia, and the leadership in Virginia is suffering from the same group of scandals.
I don't know how well. And the thing is that
All Democrats, by the way. All Democrats who are dressing up in blackface and dressing in KKK outfits and accused with some evidence to support it of multiple rapes, multiple sexual assaults and rapes, and no one's doing anything about it.
Here's the thing. These same people are in tight, and that's one of the main problems. These same people are in tight with the management at all the social media companies and all the big news organizations.
Sure.
They're in tight with all of them, which means the news media is going to continue to try to play things down as much as they can, but they are just losing. They've got, all that has to happen is their stranglehold on the internet has to be taken away, because when they lose their stranglehold on the internet, it's over for them. Because they still hold a stranglehold on the internet.
That's why they're desperate about that. That's why they're so frantic about that.
I have to agree. That's why the censorship is getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and scarier every day. I mean, they took out Owen Benjamin. I couldn't believe it. Did you hear what they did to Owen Benjamin? I don't know if you like Owen Benjamin. I love him.
I do like Owen Benjamin, and I did hear about what they did to him. You can tell the listeners in case they're not up to speed.
Oh yeah, Owen Benjamin. It's funny. First, he got demonetized, which we don't even bother trying to monetize this channel anymore. But and then all of it. But he was getting super chats. He was getting super chats. Yeah.
All of his episodes were demonetized. Not just one or two. 100% of everything he had on the internet was demonetized.
Yeah, all of it was demonetized, and this was the cherry on the top. This was the little shiv in the knife. You know what super chats are? Super chats were introduced by YouTube as a way to, like, for controversial producers to still make money. So you could super chat us right now if you wanted to, $10, and John Wright will write you a sonnet. No, seriously, super chats are just kind of a way. It was their answer. What they did was they not only,
for $10 I'll write you a limerick.
All right, for $10 he'll write you a limerick. Okay, or read a Shakespeare sonnet. One of the two. One of the two. Anyway, the
super chat. You got Owen Benjamin. They shut down.
Owen Benjamin. They didn't just shut down his super chat. They took his last 2 months worth of super chat donations and refunded them to the donors.
Good Lord.
So all the donations he'd gotten for 2 months, he didn't get. They just got the money returned one day. Okay, I mean, that is economic. It's economic terrorism is what they're practicing.
Well, I can tell. Let me tell you. Let me put on my lawyer hat for just a second. That's tortious conversion of the personality of another, which is known as theft. The money was being held as a bailee, which means that it was conversion. It means that it was also fraud, because they violated the agreement they had with him. Even if it's only one of those agreements that you like click on when you first get on YouTube, showing you agree, they just violated that. So there's at least 2 torts and 3 crimes I can see right there. It's not
imagine he's not the only one they've done things like this to.
It would be like a bank taking money out of your account and putting it in their pockets.
Well, they refunded the money to the donors, but. Yeah,
conversion, and then the banker goes and gives the money to your mom.
And let me tell you, this kind of hijinks, and this kind of hijinks. The thing is, it's been so terrifying because, Patreon, we all know, is completely corrupt. We're still on it for some reason. I keep hoping they'll reform. Basically, the few we have on there don't want to leave. I'm like, okay, but I don't push Patreon anymore. They've been screwing with people in horrible ways for years. And then, when competitors come on, PayPal and the credit card companies and the banks get in the way. Competitors, we were on something called Maker Support, but they got screwed over by static from finance companies. So did several other independent platforms. Gab.com nearly didn't survive because of hijinks, both from the finance industry and just getting their, really, there were numerous attempts to shut them down completely. There were obviously harassment and fraudulent. And they finally up now, and they're running Dissenter, which is another reason I tell people, get on Dissenter, because you can comment on everything for reals without censorship. and Gab was one of the few to stand up as competitor to try to compete with the juggernauts, and is still standing. Subscribestar is the same way. Subscribestar nearly went down 3 or 4 times. They nearly went down from hijinks from the finance industry, as well as the people who control things like DNS server names. I mean, did you know that the best search engine right now, or best trusted free independent search engine, is DuckDuckGo? And they can't get the domain name they want, which is just DuckDuck or DuckGo, and they can it's not available for any price. You can't have it. Gab had to fight for almost a year just to get Gab.com. They had to go under Gab AI. All of this is. Do you remember when we used to say, John? John, we used to say this: the internet detects censorship as damage and routes around it. It was a lie. It was a lie.
It was a fish trap. I was told when the internet first got started that it was a way so that no government was ever going to censor you again. Well, the Chinese don't feel that way about what's going on in China, and guess who's helping them? And the censorship is now no longer in the hands of your elected representatives who you can vote out of office. It's in the hands of a small group of plutocrats who all know each other, and they all sleep with each other's wives, and they all go to Martha's Vineyard spend the summer together.
There have been cases of banks simply closing people's accounts and says you can't do business here anymore, and it's like, and the answer is, well, go get an account somewhere else. No, this is a level of control that's positive, dude. I swear to you, we're heading toward THX 1138. That's too obscure a reference, but it's
not obscure to me. I know who George Lucas is.
I even remember I used to be such a techno optimist back in the late 90s and early 2000s that I was just really positive we were working into a magnificent new future of freedom and global commerce, and we were all going to be having more opportunities. And oh my God, no.
Well, here's what I like about the modern day. The left are now the friends of, are now the enemies of Russia that they used to be the friends of. The left now loves the FBI and the Department of Justice.
The left loves the FBI and the CIA.
I'm not done. And the CIA, whom they used to slander and libel every time they could. And the right is now saying maybe antitrust laws are a great idea. Why don't we sue these bastards and break them up?
I tell you,
hardcore libertarians, guys who are hardcore libertarians, are going, yeah, we were wrong about monopolies. Get that?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I do feel just a little bit of like vindication. I'll try not quite a few years ago. I started making this complaint about monopolies, and I got called a socialist commie a few times. But I'm glad more libertarians and conservatives are breaking. When the banks are more powerful than your government, you've got a problem.
Yeah, I agree. And guess who the one group is who has not ever had to reverse course and eat their own words? The guys who said, "Put not thy faith in princes." The guys who said, "Love of money is the root of all evil." The guys who said, "It's harder for a rich man to get into the paradise than for a man on a camel to go through the eye of a needle." Those guys. And those guys were right. Those guys were proven right.
Oh, back when I was doing a men's rights publication that I don't talk about because I'm not in good terms with the people running it anymore, but we published a great piece from a former SPLC fundraising volunteer, a black woman who used to fundraise for SPLC, and she wrote a whole expose on the organization showing that they collect millions and millions and millions of dollars, and those simply go into the paycheck of these people running the organization. That's really where most of the money goes. Trips and studies and large paychecks for people like Morris Dees, Richard Cohen, Rhonda Brownstein, millions of dollars that they were just using poor black volunteers to supposedly help, when all they were really doing is hurting people and smearing people and lying about people and doing nothing to help everyday common black folks at all. And they were in tight with the FBI. I want to stress how important that is. FBI used them for years, used them as an official source to monitor hate groups. So if SPLC even twitched an eyeball at you, FBI sent people to look at you. I'm pretty sure I met the FBI agent who was assigned to look after my little group about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm pretty sure I know who he is. I won't call him out, but I'm pretty sure I know who he was. And I'm not. Don't call me paranoid. I used to run the world's largest and most successful men's rights publication, very controversial one. I was in this movie, the Red Pill movie. I know some people. I've seen some things. I've actually talked with. I didn't shake his hand. I've talked with an SPLC guy. I've met people from like Warren Farrell, like people from Mother Jones, people from the mainstream media. Oh my God, it's so dishonest. And it was so creepy realizing they have help within places like the FBI.
We now have firm historical evidence that the things said by Senator McCarthy were correct. That there were people in the State Department working for the Soviets. We have the pay stubs from the KGB that we recovered after the Soviet Union collapsed, and our espionage services were allowed to investigate their records. Okay, the Venona wire cables show that there was communication between the people who were accused of being communist agents and the Kremlin. Okay, so there's historical evidence that a deliberate conspiracy was organized and massively funded. At one time, the Soviet Union was spending more money on undermining the morals, the religion, and the mores of the United States than they were spending on their military budget. And their military budget was really large. Okay.
Well,
what do you think happened to all those people once the Soviet Union crashed? Where do you think they went? What, do you think they just quit and all became Ayn Randians and decided that the capitalism was the way of the future? Do you think they all joined the Catholic Church? Maybe they did. I mean, at least
some of them did.
Some of them did. What makes anyone think they stopped using it? Their method was so successful that 3/4 of the world fell under their dominion in one generation. Okay, all of Russia, all of China, parts of Indochina, major sections of Africa, major sections of South America, Cuba, North Korea, just one success after another. You think these guys
I gotta say,
doing what they were doing? What they're doing works.
Although I think maybe we'll have a conversation. We are getting near the end of our time, I think. Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah, we really should close in the next 10, 15 minutes at most. Because I don't think it was just Soviets doing it. And I think elements in our own government have been there all along.
Not at all.
Actually, what you just said about Joe McCarthy tells the truth, too.
The only reason why I said what I said was I'm trying to point out an example of a conspiracy that everyone who is honest will recognize was real, was well-funded, and was efficient. They managed to make sure that Joe McCarthy's name to this day, and by major conservatives, is still regarded as a synonym for a witch hunt. Okay?
I know.
So, all I'm saying is, if you are willing to believe that that was real, why should any of us be willing to believe that the nexus of loyalty between the big tech companies, the big media companies, the Democrat Party, the donor class, the 15 or so families that run the 6 or so major international corporations that own all your news sources, what makes us think that they don't have a meeting of the minds, that they don't have an agenda, that they don't have a philosophy? And it's not the Christian philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you can sort one thing out for me. I have come to realize that McCarthy was lied about for some things. I had some guy tell me a few years ago, and I didn't believe him because I wasn't ready yet, I guess, that said that McCarthy was famously mocked for saying he had 57 names of spies, basically. And then he was not able to produce it. And a gentleman I knew that I should have given more credibility said he'd seen it himself in the Smithsonian archives, the 57 names. I don't know if that's something that's come out or not, or if that's just something a guy I heard. Has that part been established? I mean, we know there were communists in.
I heard that the people that he accused of being Soviet agents were in fact Soviet agents. Including people who were put on camera in front of the televised senatorial hearings, including the janitor woman who pretended that she didn't know how to read English. She actually spoke 2 languages. I mean, things like that. So I don't know about the 57 names. I can't answer that question. It's been a while.
But still, we know actually McCarthy's been vindicated on at least quite a few things. He may have still overstepped his bounds then, because I don't know if that story I just said is true. But even then, still, he went down fighting against something that was real. And we know that people within the U.S. government were still continued to operate within the U.S. government and then went on to infiltrate academia and more.
For the moment that he had not been vindicated when he said was true. If it is wrong to falsely accuse someone of being a Soviet agent, why is it okay to accuse the president of being a Soviet agent when you have no evidence? Zero evidence.
That was the funniest part too, right? I mean, everything was weird. All of a sudden, the people were terrified of Russia and how Russia's always been our enemy. When the party line on the left was always, do the Russians love their children too? Shouldn't we all get along? Stop fighting. I don't want, all that. And now all of a sudden they're the enemy.
Now let's talk about the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian for just a second. Christian and an atheist for just a second. A Christian, if he feels guilty and he's done wrong and he knows he's done wrong and he knows that the all-wise, all-powerful heaven is going to burn his bones in hell if he doesn't repent, he would probably apologize after he lied about something for 2 years. Have you heard any apologies from any mainstream media this weekend?
Mm-mm.
Single one of them said, "Wow, we were wrong about everything we've been telling you for 2 years."
And see, now that's
even said, or have they said, "Oh, remember this name? The Southern District of New York is probably going to be able to get Trump on bank fraud." Well, no, they didn't get Trump on bank fraud. They may yet, but instead they got Avenatti.
Russian bots. Remember the Russian bots. I see. Here's the thing, though. These people still control the internet and the mainstream media mostly. And so until their stranglehold on the internet and the flow of communication is broken,
yes,
I don't see major changes. They're not going to come out with a mea culpa. Do you think Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon can ever apologize? I mean, they would gain my respect if they did.
I think they would die first. I think
they would die first.
I think their worldview is so set up that they have no brakes and they have no reverse gear. I don't think they can admit wrong. The only thing they can do is if your entire worldview, your entire philosophy is set up to blame others for your shortcomings and to make it so that you are the innocent, sweet, and perfect victim and everyone else is the wicked, cruel, and diabolical oppressor, your entire worldview is set up for hypocrisy. It's not a side effect. It's not an accident. It's not an oversight. Everything you're doing, everything that's coming out of your mouth, everything you're saying is for the purpose of divorcing the way you act from the way you talk, so that you never have to be held accountable for anything that happens. Why else would anyone believe absurd ideas like moral relativism and cultural relativism and nihilism and diversity and all these other concepts that their only purpose is to accuse someone else of your own shortcomings? These guys hypocrisy is built into their worldview. It's built into their system. They live to accuse, and there's no way they can accuse themselves, because if they accuse themselves, they'd implode. The shadows would rise up out of the ground and drag them down screaming into the darkness.
From the comments, people are complaining, but no, I'm going to say that when you're trapped in the atheist worldview, what happens is taking responsibility for your own actions becomes very, very painful. It's always painful, but it's very obvious. Every atheist I've ever talked to, and I've had years of online discourse with them, you can't get them to admit to being wrong about anything. Once in a while, you'll get a minor concession. I got my first one in years on a Facebook argument recently, but then he tried to use it as an attack on me anyway.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people to bully me for not noticing his retraction fast enough. It's because something in the atheist worldview makes you narcissistic and makes you terrified of being wrong and terrified of what everybody will think of you if you're just.
Because human psychology was created by a divine creator. He left his fingerprints on us. We are designed to accept God the same way the female body is designed to accept the male seed in order to reproduce the race. There's a part in our hearts that's designed to accept God, okay? And if you deny God, then that part gets filled up with something else. If you're an atheist, There's no law higher than human law. There's no brain greater than a human brain. Usually your brain.
Ultimately more important than you and your needs right now.
Correct.
Because you can say you're going to be selfless and you're going to be generous, but if you're only generous to get brownie points, that doesn't get you very far in the long run. It might even get you bitten on the butt. And even then, still, you're gonna lose in life more often than you're gonna win. That's just a statistical certainty in most cases, actually. Because even if you turn into Donald Trump and you're a billionaire, playboy president, you're still gonna die.
Yep.
You know, and there's this obsession that comes with, I can't be, and I've enthroned human reason, and I've determined for myself that I'm smarter than the average bear. I'm way smarter than the average bear. I'm the genius who's figured out reality that nobody else can see. I can't be wrong. My whole world, basically, cognitive dissonance starts setting in the more often you're wrong, and it becomes almost maddening. You go mad trying to justify things instead of just
you get allergic to being corrected.
Yep. Oh God, yes.
No matter what the topic is, they react as if it's a personal attack.
Yep.
They act as if their sins are themselves, and so when you say this sin is destroying you, they say you're destroying me because my sin is my identity. They don't use the word sin, but that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, my identity is what I want to do with my genitals. My identity is how I want to, the music I want to listen to, and the drugs I want to do, and the chemicals I want to use, and that's all fine. You know, I mean, there's the thing. We're still living in even the most conservative guys I know, most of them will say, well, you know, you want to go off to the gay bar and do your nasty stuff and do your poppers and you want to do that. I'm not going to stop you. You know, I mean, there are some, but I mean,
I'm one of them.
Okay, well, that's fine. You can be one of them, and I'm starting to agree with you.
Only because if you had left my cake bakers alone,
I
would have left your gay bars alone.
Yeah, good point.
But if you guys cannot keep your hands to yourself and leave us alone, then the deal's off.
It's back. We should get back to maybe blue light districts, and you can go have your nasty stuff over there, and I don't want to see it otherwise. I mean,
red light districts.
Red light district. What's a blue light district?
I don't know, but there's a blue
red light district.
Blue laws is when that comes from Japan, by the way. The Yokohama was the Harlot district, and they would hang red lamps because red was the color of celebration in Japan. The blue laws were laws where people would have to go home on Sundays. And they could not open the shops and couldn't work.
Oh yeah, I actually want laws like that. I actually want laws that restrict commerce on Sundays. I really do.
So do I. And I used to be an ardent libertarian capitalist, and I'm not anymore. You know why? Because Sundays, if you put Sundays aside for families to get together and have families, maybe you'll have fewer broken families.
Yep.
Maybe you'll have people actually form communities instead of not even knowing who the next door neighbor is.
Yep. Oh, I don't know. Yep. That would be a long list of things where I think libertarians needed a readjustment in their thinking, and I think some of them are getting it. In any case, I'm basically with you. I'm tired of it. After having been pro-gay rights since the 80s and not stopped even after I turned Catholic, enough vicious attacks from atheist gays has made me reevaluate and made me think, you know what, the religious conservatives who told me LGBTQ was a hate movement that was out to convert us and destroy us, they weren't paranoid. When I meet some people from LGBTQ plus, they're always atheists. They hate me on the instant. I've been assaulted for being a Christian, and atheists laugh about it. I bet even Charlie Reed there will be laughing about it, or just saying, it didn't happen. The godless have no morals. That's just what I see in them over and over again. They have no morals, they have no ethics, they have no decency. They talk about empathy, but they only give you empathy when they like you. And if they don't like you, they have no empathy at all. The godless are just like that.
They're barbarian.
Even the right-wing ones.
That's the way a barbarian acts. A barbarian to a barbarian. Everyone who's in the tribe is a human being, and everyone who's outside the tribe is a threat, is an animal, is prey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why when I say these people are hateful and they're bigoted, I'm not kidding. I'm just not kidding at all.
You have to I used to be an atheist. I saw what happened when I switched from being atheist to being Christian. When I was an atheist, the Christians were nice to me. And so were the atheists, because I was an atheist. When I was a Christian, the atheists immediately started accusing me. Even people who had known me for 40 years started accusing me of all sorts of nonsense that they knew was false.
Yep.
It was like feeling be possessed by a demon. One of
Yep.
my best friends I went to school with
Yes.
started just ranting at me with hatred in his face.
Yep.
And then afterwards, I asked him about it because we'd been friends for decades, and he was unaware of it. He had no idea what I was talking about.
Really, this total rage comes out of them. I have been shocked at the treatment I have seen come of other people too, coming out of ideological atheists. They're not always on the ideological left, but they're definitely ascendant now on the ideological left. And I'll even ask them these questions because they'll tell me these woes of oppression that, oh, atheists get picked on, sometimes they get executed. I'm like, I'll care when you even acknowledge atheists have murdered Christians in the name of atheism, which they inevitably have. And none of them will admit that this has ever happened ever. And I'm like, oh, then I don't care. Maybe we should just go back to making it illegal to be an atheist.
Yeah.
If that's the way you're going to be. I used to be all about the whole let's just live and let live thing, and the whole it's your business.
I had an insight. I suddenly realized why they can't leave us alone. Do you know why? Here's my theory. If you're guilt-ridden, the only way you can quiet the guilt in you is two ways. One, you go to confession, or if you're a Protestant, you confess your crime directly to God. Two, you try to get everyone around you to say that it's okay. Everyone you meet, even strangers on the street, they all appraise you and say, "Oh no, everyone does it. Oh no, it's okay. Oh no, whoever told you it was wrong is trying to trick you. They're oppressing you. You're the victim of a false narrative." Those are the only two methods of dealing with guilt. Either you address it or you try to flee it. Well, if everyone around you has to say that you're okay for being a sinner, then you can't stand anyone, even if he's minding his own dang business. Even if he's living on an iceberg in Antarctica, if he thinks that what you do is morally wrong, you have to go to where he is and say, "Stop baking that. You have to bake a cake for me and praise me and kiss my foot," because otherwise your feelings of guilt are going to come out and claw you, and you don't want that to happen, and you feel miserable. But since you're not confessing, you think the misery is caused by the guy, not by your own conscience. So there's no possibility of peace between the righteous and the unrighteous. I wish there were. I miss being a libertarian, but there's no possibility.
Yeah.
If the unrighteous are willing for whatever reason to continue to act like Christians, even though they don't believe in Christ, then we can get along. But the moment they start acting like natural man, then we can't, because natural man cannot tolerate to be around a man who's got the Spirit.
I'm afraid that it's so. It says something about their complete lack of morals and ethics, which is what is the problem for the godless. Even the ones who act like they have morals and ethics, they go out the window in a heartbeat, and they turn immediately to either deciding they themselves are the fit judge of the whole world and the whole human race. And notice how they often therefore conclude that people are awful, just like Christians do. But also, they have no redemption. Or they want mob rule. They want to be popular, and they want to get mobs to come in to go after people and shame people, or even kill people and brutalize them with mob justice. This is where it always goes. And it goes lying to get whatever you need, because after all, the lie makes sense because it will let me do something good with it. And that's just the way it all goes, man. That was all I had to say. You all got a final thought? Then we got to close this up.
I do have a final thought. I think that we should all thank God for these news stories and the boomerang of justice clocking these people in their overweight buttocks, now that they have so outrageously abused the gullibility of the innocent and carried on with this lies for years at a time. Yeah. It's obvious they know better. This is not an innocent deception.
Lying for money, power, and fame. Lying for money, power, and fame.
And because they hate us. Let's not overlook that.
Yeah,
when I was talking about my friend being contorted with hate, I thought I was looking at Uncle Screwtape. I thought I was looking at a supernatural effect. Because there's something that moves in the world that makes it so that these guys hate the Jews. Now I don't know why. If I was running the Democrat Party, I'd try to get the Jews on my side. They vote Democrat 70 or 80% of the time. Why in the world would you alienate those guys? They're on your side. Why would you alienate the blacks? They're on your side. But no, they can't do it. That same thing that makes it so that they will not leave you alone if you're in Antarctica, that little cherished God they have in the place of the real God, which is themselves, their narcissism, will not allow them to be at peace, even when it's in their best interest, even with their allies.
Yeah, and let me say, some are going to notice the large number of Jewish names here. Although certainly Avenatti is not such a name, but anybody who's talking that way, I want you to think real hard about it. And I want you to know something. Atheist Jews, secular Jews, tend to detest Orthodox believing Jews. And Orthodox believing Jews tend to detest these people. And so, yeah, my Orthodox Jewish friends hate the SPLC. They hate Hollywood. They hate, actually, they hate the Anti-Defamation League. And quite a few other Jewish advocacy groups, because they perceive these Jewish advocacy groups as both embarrassing and being hateful to them because they're religious. And now that doesn't mean and so whenever you generalize that, A, notice all the names, they ain't Jewish. B, know that there's different people. You know, the Jewish religion is not the same as these people. These people are godless. Literally, they are, and you can bet they have no respect for any rabbi. Those atheist Reformed Jew rabbis.
I actually believe the Jews are the chosen people, and I believe that when a Jew turns godless, it is actually worse for the world than when a Goyim turns godless, when Gentile turns godless. Because when a Jew turns godless, you get Marx, you get Ayn Rand, you get people who are able to call upon the moral sentiments of the world and direct it toward either a selfish goal or an evil goal. Selfish in Ayn Rand, evil in the case of Marx.
There you go. And by the way, Mueller and Avenatti are not Jewish names.
Now,
so anyway,
I also believe that when Catholics go bad, you get people like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and other people who allegedly are Catholics, but until the Pope interfere and with bell, book, and candle curses them to hell for being in favor of abortion, I'm not going to believe they're real Catholics.
And the best example of that was Stalin, who was Russian Orthodox, which is pretty much Catholic, actually. He was originally Russian Orthodox. Then he turned atheist, and look what happened.
Yeah,
yeah, real serious Orthodox Catholic type Christians. It's a long story, but they're more or less Catholic from this frame of reference. And yeah, man, woof. So I wanted to get that out because people were making that noise in the comments.
Don't be glum. This is the one weekend when we're allowed to just rejoice, raise our hands to the good Lord, and say thank you, oh great boomerang of justice, for clocking these people in the back of their empty skulls. Boy, they deserve it.
Yep, Avenatti going down. All the people are, everybody who is behind Mueller going down. SPLC going down. It's so awesome. All right, listen, we're going to close it up now.
Okay.
Everybody be sure to visit sci-fi-right.com and buy his books. Go to eljajilamplighter.com and buy her books too. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit us on Subscribe Star or PayPal or on redpillreligion.com. And God bless everybody.